What you are listening to is real. The parties involved are not cool. They are actual geeks with a case pending in the court of public opinion. The party's case has been dismissed, and the dispute will be settled here on our podcast. There will be no lawyers. There will be no witness testimony. The judge's decisions are final.
Hello, I'm Judge Ivan.
I'm Judge Jonathan, and this is Geeks on Trial. Today's case, Great Minds Ink Alike.
Welcome to Geeks on Trial. This is the podcast where we settle petty disputes between actual geeks over movies, video games, board games, and more. If you'd like to submit your own geeky case for a future episode, you can email us at geeksontrial@gmail.com. You can also support the show over at patreon.com/geeksontrial for just a few bucks a month, and you'll gain early access to both our audio and video episodes before they are released to the general public.
Now, before we start today's show, we need to address the elephant in the room here. You're not in uniform today, my friend.
Well, because we're filming this a day before the 4th of July, and most major offices are closed today, so I'm off.
Oh, you're taking the day off.
I'm technically taking the day off of being a judge, but I still got the gavel.
For any audio listeners, we usually wear our judge's robes, but Ivan today has a black polo.
Right. Because
that's fine.
It's vacation-y.
Okay, you know what? I respect it. It's in honor of our great country of America.
Yep.
But by the time this comes out, we'll be done celebrating America.
Right. It's one
else.
day a year. We celebrate it, blow things up, eat meat, and that's it.
That's the name of the game.
That's basically all the 4th of July is.
I think that's the Sixth Amendment.
Blowing up meat. What?
Blow meat.
What?
Ivan, you read any good books lately?
I don't read.
Oh, you seen any good movies lately?
Yes, I've seen a great movie recently. How about you?
Wow. Well, what I'm alluding to is the fact that we both saw the same movie. And that's what we're going to discuss today before we get to the meat of the show, which we will blow later on. We went and saw what I think is, I was thinking about this, probably the biggest geek movie of the summer, this summer. In terms of what you would think of as geek culture.
Right.
I don't think there's a bigger one than this, and that's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which is the 5th Indiana Jones movie. The first since Crystal Skull, which came out in 2008, 2009, something.
Sure.
I don't know. 2000 something.
Early 2000s. It came out early to mid 2000s.
Yes, and so, kind of a big, which really seemed like the final Indiana Jones movie. It seemed to put a cap on it. Harrison Ford was old then.
Yeah.
He's even older now.
Are there no other geeky movies that are out this year? Like, there's no
There are
Wars,
geeky
Treks?
movies, but like in terms of long-standing franchises, I feel like nothing tops Indiana Jones.
Oh, I don't know. What about the Fast movies?
You could argue Spider-Man and Guardians, but I'm thinking of strictly movie franchises, like those, are comic book properties. Like this is the for the movie geeks.
And
right?
this is the only real 80s movie, right? Was the original the 80s?
Yes. Mm-hmm, yeah.
So this might be the only throwback
and
movie.
It's also an 80s movie because Harrison Ford is in his 80s.
Is he really?
I think he is 80, somewhere about
he
there.
Sure looks it.
Well, also of note, this is directed by James Mangold, so the first Indiana Jones movie not directed by Steven Spielberg. That's something we can.
So is that why I enjoyed it?
Uh-oh. They're coming for us in the comments section. Spielberg's in there. All the Spielberg heads straight from the 80s, because that's where they are from.
So what did you think of this movie? Tell us.
All right.
Tell me, tell them, tell everybody. Everybody?
Well, I'm a big Indiana Jones. Who isn't a big Indiana Jones fan? I love Indiana Jones. In fact, I rewatched the first 4 movies the week leading up to seeing this.
Oh,
so I was real excited about it. I mean, you don't need to, but I wanted to. And I enjoyed those movies more or less as I remembered enjoying them, in terms of there weren't any that I was like, oh, this is way better or worse than I remembered.
Now, do you think you needed to watch those?
No.
Okay.
I mean, there's some Easter eggs, there's some references.
Right.
I mean, in terms of like understanding it, you don't need to watch them. I guess it's more like how much do you appreciate. Like, I don't. If you haven't ever seen an Indiana Jones movie, then
This would just be confusing to you, and
why you're like, why do I care about this old man?
right? And you're like, oh, why did he just randomly find a hat and the music kicked in? Like, what's going on?
That's the music hat, I suppose.
Yep.
And I don't want to. I want to try not to talk spoilers. If you must say a spoiler, maybe we'll save it to the end of the discussion. But I think we can. I think we can talk around it. But I will just say, I really liked the movie. In my estimation, I would place this third out of 5 Indiana Jones movies.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely better than the Crystal Skull movie. I wasn't a huge fan of Crystal Skull.
Now, I'm a Crystal Skull defender, typically. I think Crystal Skull has good stuff in it.
It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great.
To me, I'll just say it now, Temple of Doom is on the bottom of my list. I don't think Temple of Doom is great. But that's neither. The point is, I think the first 2 to me are Raiders and Last Crusade, and to me those are there's no chance this movie was going to match those. Like it was impossible.
Now,
so the fact that it's right behind them is really good to me.
Do you think this movie, like, was this something we were craving, something that we needed, or do you think this movie, like, if they didn't make it, would have been like, okay, the last movie was a good wrap up?
Yeah, no, I don't think we were craving it, and in fact, one of my few complaints about Dial of Destiny,
I have a few complaints I'll talk about in a few,
is that I liked the way some things were wrapped up in Crystal Skull.
Right.
And they also introduced some things in Crystal Skull that, due to, I'm assuming, actors' schedules or just what the creatives wanted to do, those things don't necessarily happen. Like, not a spoiler, I won't say exactly why or how, but Shia LaBeouf's character is not in this movie. And it's kind of a bummer to me when, they introduce ostensibly a major life event for a character, and there's a nice bow on it, and then it's like, well, because we want to make another movie, now you have to find out that actually 20 years later he's really sad and his life is not that great anymore. Right. It's like, but he was happy at the end. It's like, well, we'll get him happy again, but we need 2 hours of him being grumpy first. Otherwise, you don't have a movie.
Well, that might have just been in his contract, because that's just who he is now. Did they even mention Shia LaBeouf's character?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
In this
movie?
Do.
They certainly do.
I don't remember the character name, so...
If you don't remember who he is in that movie, then maybe you missed it, because it's not like they don't show a picture of him or anything, but it's certainly it's an important aspect of his character. Okay. So it's in there. But what were your
my issues were if there's any spoilers, I apologize. But the CGI him, which has been well known for a while, they spoke about it online that they were going to be doing this. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. Like,
this is I just wanted for this is like the first, what'd you say, 15, 20 minutes opening of the movie basically is a de-aged Harrison Ford. Right. So it takes place back in the 30s or early 40s. It's like end of World War II, I guess, is when it is. And so you see a young Indiana Jones,
younger, I guess,
right?
But it didn't look like you can they did a really good job kind of not holding his face on screen for too long, and like they kind of like there was stuff going on around it to distract you from it, but it wasn't bad, wasn't great. Like, they could have done better, I'm assuming. I didn't dig into like how they actually did it for this one, if they just had him acting and they just kind of adjusted his face.
I believe that's what they did, yeah.
Which makes sense, but it wasn't, there was definitely a shimmer to his face where you're like, that's not human.
The big thing for me is the eyes. It's always they cannot get those eyes quite right.
Which, like, do you mean the eyeball or like the eye around the eye?
The ball, I suppose. I don't know.
Do they look soulless to you?
There's just something about the way the light hits them, or just like there's a blankness in the eyes that it's just, that's the biggest giveaway. The other biggest giveaway, I thought, it didn't sound like they did anything to his voice. which
No,
I
he
thought
had
was
old
weird.
man voice.
Yeah, it sounded like old Harrison Ford. And again, I just watched those movies.
So you
Young
can
Harrison Ford doesn't sound like old Harrison Ford. So,
yeah.
and he's, it's a very distinctive voice. And I'm like, they should have done something. Even, honestly, it might have been better to just get an impersonator or something. I don't know.
Well, especially
But-
now because they have hours, and between all of his movies, we have hours of his young voice. They could have done
You could have
something
done it.
digitally and done one of those the epic rap things they did with Obama, where they cut the voices in half. You know what
Sure.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
You mean auto-tune the news?
Sure.
Or,
yeah. Something
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I agree. Like, I didn't love it was like the scenes were great, but I constantly I can't look at him and not think that's a blob of mush.
Right.
That's
Now-
not a human being.
Do you think the average person would have been pointed that out, or because we knew that was going to be in this
know.
movie, that we're waiting? It's
I don't know about the average. I certainly think some people will notice it.
that's a little funky. Something's off.
It may not bother people as much as us. What confuses me is that I remember the movie Captain Marvel, in which Samuel L. Jackson is de-aged.
Right.
And he's a main character in that whole movie. And I haven't rewatched it, maybe I'm wrong, but at the time I recall thinking that de-aging was excellent in that. I thought they did a great job making him look younger. I believed it completely. So I'm like, why can't they do this for 15 minutes? What happened? Did they just not have the budget, or they just don't care enough
And it's the
anymore?
same production studio.
Same studio and arguably the same age. I mean, I guess you could argue. I guess here's the difference. Samuel L. Jackson today looks more like he did 20 years ago.
Right. Where
there's a bigger difference in Harrison Ford.
Is old.
Yes, it's harder to.
Speaking
do that.
of old, there's a few scenes that kind of
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yep. There's a few scenes in that movie. Now, there was a few scenes that took me out of it when when Harrison Ford was doing some special effects, some jumping from something, diving into somewhere. You can tell that they were hiding the fact that he is 80. So they either he's jumping off of something. Oh, let's cut to a really wide screen, a wide extreme zoom out, where it's clearly a stunt double.
Right.
But then having a stunt double matching up with him running through a town where it could have been him. It was oh, he's old. This is kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, most of the movie, it's not. I don't think they are trying to hide that he's old.
No, because in
it's
the
about
storyline,
his age.
You're right.
But yeah, there certainly are a few parts where it's he's climbing up a wall, and I'm I know Harrison Ford probably can't do that, but
right, or the things.
But Indiana Jones could.
But the things he's actually doing, even him holding a whip at any time, it's it's not there. It's something with the
Sure.
age. That not that it. I mean, I guess it did bother me, but it's maybe we should have made this movie a little bit sooner.
Well,
but
yeah. Yeah, if only we could have. But overall, I think the movie nails pretty much the beats of Indiana Jones movies.
Oh, 100%.
I think, again, not going to say what the thing is. I don't think we should say it.
No.
But because I don't think it was in the trailers, maybe, but I didn't watch all of them.
Right.
But what the Dial of Destiny is, I thought was a very unique thing for Indiana Jones, and it wasn't just what I was scared of was just another religious artifact,
Right.
which they kind of tease in the beginning, and it's almost like a switcheroo, which I was happy about. And some of the character stuff where, again, I don't love that they kind of have to undo some stuff from Crystal Skull.
Right.
But other than that, the action is good. It's a fun time. I still love Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford still kicks ass in this movie in terms of his acting abilities. It's not going to be the best of the bunch, but it's a solid. Did we need it? Maybe not, but
it's nice to
there's
see
some
it
really
before,
good stuff there.
I'm happy we did do it before he died.
Sure,
because
yeah.
I'm sure they can make another one where it's we're at his funeral, and then continue on from there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, for years they've been talking about I think just fans have been saying oh, maybe Chris Pratt will be the next Indiana Jones or whatever. I mean, they'll probably do it at some point, but I think Harrison Ford certainly, as long as he's alive, nobody wants to see anyone else put that hat on. It's not.
Now,
it's
what
not in the cards.
year was this movie taking place? Was it like the 80s?
Oh no,
modern day.
1969. Yeah.
Oh, it's supposed to be the 60s, or I guess 70s.
Correct. Well, the movie opens, or early on, you hear "Magical Mystery Tour," the Beatles, and that's
Okay.
yes, it's late 60s. Yeah, I mean that's if you look at Indiana Jones' age in the other movies, that's when it
makes
lines
sense.
up. Yeah,
Because I love like the it was old New York and seeing a lot of that stuff too. I always love seeing Indiana Jones in a cityscape.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's fun because it's different from what you usually get with him.
Right.
I will say one thing that is a minor spoiler. So if you don't want to skip ahead 1 minute to our case, but my other biggest disappointment, the one thing I was really hoping would happen in this movie that doesn't happen, I was hoping we would see a cameo from Ke Kwan as Short Round.
So was I, honestly, because like
he just won an Oscar, like,
and it wasn't that a big thing. Like they were both like they took a picture together at the Oscars, or there was something that happened.
I think he was filming Everything Everywhere at the same time they were filming this.
Yeah.
And maybe he just wouldn't have fit in the movie. Maybe it would have felt like fan service. But I wanted, because like in Crystal Skull, they brought Marion back and it was like kind of a reunion. Like I just wanted to see a little, even if it was just a minute of something. I thought there were places you could have thrown him in.
Or even like
I want to see that.
A phone call. Like have him
Yeah,
film
sure.
on his set and then like you could have done something. And I think that would have gotten the audience to be like, oh, wow,
I think it would have been nice, but...
Now, let me ask you. We saw it at a Dolby Atmos theater, right?
Oh, correct,
Was that
yeah.
Atmos?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, that didn't, wow me any more than, like, a regular theater. But this movie wasn't technically, I guess, made.
There were some parts, like, where you could hear echoes and stuff, like, behind you, but... Yeah, I mean, it's, Atmos... I think Atmos is... If you're noticing it, it's probably not doing its job.
That was the other thing I was thinking of too, because like you don't want it to be gimmicky. You don't want it to be like
You want to be immersed in it. So
right.
Yeah, it's a nice touch, but yeah.
But yeah, overall, I really thought this was a good movie. I definitely think because I looked at your Letterboxd score, you liked it a little bit better than I did, but not by much. I did 3.5. You did 4.
That's right. I gave it 4 stars.
So maybe
follow us on Letterboxd.
It might have been better if I've seen, like, if I rewatched the other movies beforehand, because, like, I literally went into this movie not knowing anything about the movie besides it's an Indiana Jones movie. That's it. So.
Yeah, that's mostly what I knew, too. Well, check it out. Go check out Indiana Jones. And I had heard mixed things before it came out, so... I don't know what the, I feel like it's, even if you don't think it's the best Indiana Jones movie, there's very little in it that's, even like I liked Crystal Skull, but
right.
I understand the things people don't like about it.
Right.
This movie feels very unobjectionable to me. There's nothing in it that's like, there's not a Jar Jar Binks, you know what I mean? There's not a, there's not a fridge nuking scene that's.
There was a Wilhelm scream.
Well, I give up. If you're an Indiana Jones movie or a Star Wars movie, you get a pass. You can have a Wilhelm scream.
But it wasn't very noticeable. It was kind of like in the background, covered up, and everyone was like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm Wilhelm screaming to get to today's case already.
Uh-huh.
I'm glad we had a chance to discuss that movie, but it's time to get into the meat of the show, which we will now blow. Today's case comes to us from the internet. You can find a link in our episode description.
He's right.
Our defendant today is Edward. Edward and his girlfriend Wendy have a plan to get their very first tattoos together.
Okay.
At the tattoo parlor, they have to gone, and they have to each to chosen different tattoo designs that happen to go together. Floral designs. Roses for Wendy, lilies for Edward. Isn't that nice?
Aw.
However, when Edward returns later on for his tattoo appointment, which he is going to actually get the tattoo on his skin by himself, he makes a spontaneous last-minute decision. He changes his mind, and he gets a different design, which is an Ouroboros from the anime Full Metal Alchemist.
And I nodded along. I'm like, yep, that's what it was.
That's just, you say certain words, the autocorrect sometimes fills it in for you. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Ouroboros or Ouroboros, however you want to say it. It's what it is. We'll get to it later. After revealing this to Wendy, she is disappointed, explaining that their tattoos she thought were supposed to match, and she accuses Edward of being selfish. Edward insists that the idea of matching tattoos was not something that was actually officially discussed, and he says, Wendy's a big Disney fan. She should understand having this love of a certain fandom and wanting that as your first tattoo. As dual judges here on Geeks on Trial, it's now our job to determine whether we'd like to have a word with Edward or if we think Wendy is a when don't.
You've done better.
I don't think I have.
Now, before we get into
that's
this,
number one.
I want to ask you a question. What tattoo would you get from Full Metal Jacket?
A guy shooting himself?
There it is. Or the drill instructor, drill sergeant, who plays the same character in every movie.
Arlie Ermy, yeah.
Yep.
Just shouting. Yeah. Well, let's talk tattoos. Let's get some tattoo talk.
How many do you have?
Last I checked, and we're including like on my ankle, on my back. Mm-hmm. I do not have any.
Neither do I. And it's not something that I want to get done. The only thing that I've like modified with my body is in middle school I got an ear piercing. That was it.
Do you still? Is it still pierceable?
Maybe.
Do you still? Or have you not? You don't regularly put anything in there.
I haven't had an earring. I haven't had an earring in there probably since like I graduated high school.
Because it does like grow back eventually. I think if you don't.
If you look close at my ear, you could see there was something there, but you can't like put anything in it anymore.
I mean, you know me, I do not like needles.
Well, that was the thing. Like a tattoo, I would get if it didn't hurt.
That's what temporary tattoos are for. Mm-hmm. I still would not get a tattoo. I am just a person who there is no image that I'm like, yeah, I want to look at that forever, or that I want other people to see on me as part of me forever.
And I'm also too indecisive. Like I would end up getting a tattoo and be like, oh, I don't like this thing anymore. Or like,
let's say hypothetically, we're getting tattoos. Like it's not a discussion. Let's keep it on topic. You have to get a tattoo that's from some kind of fandom, a show or a movie, something that you're into. What's your tattoo that you're picking?
Oh, so it has to be something.
And where are you putting it?
Part of me, like one of my biggest like shows that I always loved was The Simpsons, but I don't know if I would do any kind of Simpson tattoo.
Yeah, feels weird.
But for me, like if I were to do a Simpsons tattoo, I would do something that would like tie into like other things that I do. So like maybe like the pink donut. Because it's something that's like people who know the show know it's from The Simpsons, but people who don't would just be like, oh, this freak just likes donuts.
Oh, it's unrecognizable, that pink frosting and those. Well, would you get it colored in, or would it be an outline?
If I'm going to get a tattoo, I'm going to go all for it. I would get a colored in tattoo. What about you?
I don't know that I ever would have guessed your answer would be a Simpsons donut. I don't know if that's really your answer, or if you just don't want to waste 10 minutes of dead air thinking about it.
Because like that's, to me, like that is like the only franchise that I'm like I've ever been like hardcore about. Like I like The Simpsons. I collect Simpsons stuff. I mean, I guess something from like a video game, like a little Mario would be cool, or like a little like the question mark block somewhere.
That's not bad. Yeah, the first thing that I thought of, which I feel like is almost kind of cliche, like I think people get this tattoo for sure, is the Triforce from Legend of Zelda.
I would say like most people, like if you were to like look at everyone's tattoos, I would feel like that's one of the big ones.
But what's great about the Triforce is it's simple, mm-hmm. and it's not so obvious that it's like Link's face or something.
Right, or it's like it's
that
also not
tacky.
Something they can mess up. It's triangles.
Right, it's triangles, but you could add a little flair, like maybe you put the Master Sword in there, or you get some nice shading on it. There's different versions.
Or you can
there's things you can do. So that would be my first thought. Any anime tattoos?
No. I'm not that. Okay, so not
Ooh, maybe
that
a Dragon Ball.
Ooh.
That's what I would do.
Now, where would you put it?
Well, the Triforce has to go on your back of your hand because that's where he has that mark in the games.
Because like if
Kinda
I were to
like
get
Full Metal.
if I were to get a tattoo,
Jacket.
I wouldn't get somewhere that like can't be covered up. Like I would never get like a neck tattoo or like a hand tattoo. Like it has to be somewhere like shoulder, like elbow up.
Yeah, I get that. Maybe like shoulder or like somewhere in the arm. Or that would probably make
Top of your head.
Also, there's less chance of like. I'm gonna like gain weight somewhere and it's gonna look weird. Then I don't know.
I thought about that too.
But we do have an anime one in today's case specifically.
Because like for me, like anime wise, like not that I don't watch anime or manga or anything like read a manga, but like
I read anime and I watch manga.
I don't follow it. Like there's like 2 or 3 that I've watched in my life, but it's not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, I used to follow some series, but not that much for a long time. And I have maybe 1 or 2 episodes, but I've really never watched Full Metal Alchemist. So
I'm gonna do it.
So that's the first disappointment for anyone watching who expects us to have anything of significance to say about that subject matter. I
think
don't.
the only anime that I actually enjoyed was I think it was Sword Art Online.
In your life, the only anime you've ever enjoyed
Well, not
is
ever.
Sword Art Online?
But like one of my top ones I enjoyed was Sword Art Online. Yeah.
Now, I also, we're talking about anime series. Actually, I mean, if I was going to go anime, I do, I love Miyazaki. I would go for it kind of breaks my, I said I would want No Face, so maybe I'd get a tattoo of No Face from Spirited Away.
Oh, that's funny. Or just a giant Totoro on your back.
Totoro. Or one of the little, one of the soot balls, or the little
I was thinking about
forest
that too.
spirits.
There's
some good ones from that. There's some good ones. The douchiest thing is to get like the Japanese, any other language on your skin. If you're white, you just probably shouldn't do.
Right.
But it could be cool to have, I don't know, like the Akira logo or something in Japanese, but. Probably not. It's not. Don't do that.
Right.
Now the tattoo in this instance. So you can Google this. We know the exact tattoo in question. It is from the show. As I said, it's an Ouroboros or an Ouroboros. Do you know how to say that word?
No.
Great. I feel like I've heard it both ways. Traditionally, this is the snake eating its own tail.
Right.
And so that's not a concept invented by this anime, but. On the show, it's a dragon eating its tail,
right?
Kind of a little bit of a cooler kind of a snake.
Ooh.
And in the center of it is a hexagram, also known as a 6-pointed star, or it looks like a Jewish Star of David. Right. And I believe the significance is this is a mark that does appear on characters' bodies in the show.
Right.
So there is kind of a layer there, a double meaning of like. It's a tattoo that's a tattoo, which is kind of cool.
Right. So it's from the show and it's from the world. So
how about this? How about the arrow of Aang from Last Airbender tattooed?
I couldn't pull that off. You could.
But that is such a big. That's too big.
Now, okay, this might offend other bald people, but. I've seen things where
not me. You're not worried about offending me, though.
Nah, I've offended you enough. Where like you can get hair tattooed on your head. Have you ever seen that shit?
It's called a wig, I think.
No, but they like how you can have like a hair stubble. Like people like get like dots of like hair tattooed on their head. It doesn't.
Why? That's stupid.
Very rarely does any hair replacement thing ever look great.
But unless you are completely like alopecia level bald, right. You're still going to have to shave it every day. Otherwise, you're still going to be growing some hair, and that's going to look terrible.
Hair. The only thing I think I would do is like if I didn't have eyebrows, I would tattoo eyebrows on.
I think I would just get an eyebrow surgically attached.
Oh.
Yeah. like a sewn onto my face.
I think that would hurt more than a tattoo.
Do people not have eyebrows?
Well, if you have
Alopecia
alopecia,
people.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, what did Sitwell, Sally Sitwell, Stan Sitwell,
Ed Begley Jr. on Arrested Development.
Yeah. What did he do?
Stan Sitwell.
Didn't he have fake?
Yeah, he did.
Eyebrows?
That was okay. Tangent. That was like the worst character design. What is his character? Well, he's a CEO and he doesn't have hair. Okay, let's write it.
Sometimes you just need a funny visual gag. That's
The best
all.
thing was when Job stole his eyebrows and was wearing them as a mustache in the background.
That is pretty good. So I mean, what do you think about this design? Like specifically this design? Do you think that's a cool looking tattoo?
Well,
Not knowing about the context.
the photo that you sent me, assuming that's probably what the exact tattoo would be, it looks like it has no flair to it. It's just like a solid one color thing. Like if I were to do that, I would have like, I would spend the money, get the dragon kind of like to look semi-realistic and maybe add a little fun to it. If you're going in, you might as well go all in.
I could see. I'm not an artist, so I don't know how to articulate this. But I feel like there's a way to keep it with the one color, but you can kind of add almost like an airbrush look to it, or like some kind of a shading that gives it a little more,
or like a texture
pop.
Or
Texture. Yeah, something.
You add that drop shadow to your tattoo and an outline to it. And I'm speaking Photoshop now.
That's gonna be give it 20 years. That's tattoos are. You're just gonna like put your arm into a thing and scan it, and you'll like have Photoshop settings.
Right. Now this it's not really this tattoo doesn't scream anime. Like if you didn't know what it was, it's technically two things that exist in the real world. This isn't like, it's not like getting the Triforce. Triforce is technically, it's a triangles in it, but like it's specifically from Legend of Zelda, where this could be something.
I don't know this for a fact, but I feel like maybe the Triforce design could have originated somewhere else in our culture that they appropriated for Legend of Zelda.
Makes sense.
Don't quote me on that, but that may be the case.
Already am.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible looking tattoo. Now maybe it is a little weird if you don't know the anime and you're a Jewish person. I might go, should I be offended?
Right.
Don't get it like right on your shoulder, like
because there's like a little history behind those tattoos, and
yeah, that is maybe somewhat dicey territory. It is. Maybe there are slight. I gotta look at it again. Maybe there's a slight difference between like the actual Jewish star of. Yeah, it is. It isn't exactly. I think I actually saw there's two different versions of it.
Okay.
There's one that originated in the manga, or manga, depending on how annoying you want to be, is however you want to say it. And that one looked straight up like a Jewish star.
Okay.
The one from the anime, it looks like they altered it a little, which I think is the one he's getting. It does not look as much. It has its own flair to it. That is less weird.
Looking at the case file right now, it's like, there's the middle's not colored in. It's kind of, there is a little something to it.
It has a shape in the middle. It doesn't just look straight up.
There's lines that are like, it looks like it's separate triangles and not just one solid thing.
Yeah. So I'm cool. Like in terms of just purely the design, I'm not offended by this.
No, and it depends on how big it is, where it is. It's not it doesn't scream nerd to me.
Okay, so we're on the same page there.
Now let me ask
you
this question.
Please.
Would you get a tattoo because a significant other or a family member wanted you to do so? Like, would you get somebody's name tattooed on you? Would you get like a picture of a deceased pet tattooed on you, or anything like that? Because these are all things that people do.
Mm-hmm.
But would you do that?
There is almost nothing short of being paid an exorbitant amount of money that would convince me to get a tattoo.
Right.
I mean, almost nothing. Maybe if someone was really like, this means so much to me, and it's just like a half an inch or a quarter of an inch in diameter little shape somewhere on your wrist or
Right.
something. Like, and even that I would hem and haw about.
Right.
That's
Now,
me, but
your not hatred of tattoos, but you're not wanting to get one. Does
my
it have
aversion.
anything to do with any religious ties, or that just
None
kind of
whatsoever. No, I just don't.
say,
I just
like,
don't
I
want to have a thing on me.
right a permanent thing? Like I'll like you said the henna, the temporary tattoos. Sure, I'll do it for a while and then it comes off and it's like okay, oh it's fun.
I think part of it is also, I just feel like you got to be a certain kind of person to. You got to have a certain level of confidence just to be like, I'm a guy with a thing that I want people to look at, and I maybe want you to ask me why I have it and have a conversation about. Everything that I do is to make other people not notice me.
Right, you're a lot like me. We like to, besides doing what we're doing now and editing our own content.
Well, that's
we
different.
like to blend into the crowd.
Yes.
Like we were talking about one day eyeglasses, and I always get like the basic black frames, and I was like, oh, maybe I could do like a color, maybe like a blue, and I'm like, nah, people notice that.
Oh, when I got these, I've had these for a few years now, several years now, but I before this had much thinner frames.
Right.
And I was self-conscious getting thicker glasses because feeling like, I don't know, is this just like the hipster nerd
Right.
look? Like I'm very making a change like that to my appearance, which the glasses might as well be a permanent change to my appearance.
Right.
It's not something I take lightly. Okay, so what do we think? Let's get into the nitty gritty of this.
Right. Let's get into what the story case
I think
actually
also
is.
maybe we can agree that the Full Metal Alchemist is probably, we haven't really seen it, but sounds like maybe a step up from just some flowers. I don't know. That's me. No, maybe you're not sold either way.
No.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just like a flower. I don't know, kind of boring. I don't know. Maybe it was a cool design. We didn't see it.
Or if it had like a significant meaning.
It doesn't
to this
seem like it
relationship.
did. I mean, I'm assuming it doesn't, or if it does, it's not one that Edward has retained.
Because I also feel like so a flower, it's kind of like up there with like the tribal bands. It's like, kind of like you go into a tattoo parlor, and you just say, "Give me a tattoo." It's like, okay, we'll give you the heart with mom on it, the tribal tattoo, a flower, or a star. Like I feel like this is like
the mermaid,
the generic book of tattoos. Flower is kind of like
an anchor.
an anchor. Yep.
Yeah, which sometimes it's tried and true. It's a classic. It's inoffensive. Maybe
Right.
sometimes that's a good thing. But I don't know these two people personally, so it's hard to say also, like, would these be a good fit for their personalities? Sounds
Right.
like Full Metal Alchemist is definitely a good fit, right?
Right.
If you want that tattoo, that means it's a good fit for you.
Exactly. Now, where do you stand on Wendy becoming upset?
Right. That's the crux of it, isn't it? That's really what we're going to talk
That's
about.
what
today.
we're going to talk about.
Now, almost 40 minutes in.
we're going to go to the tattoo parlor, and we're going to each get a gavel tattooed on.
Oh, that's good. Or how about like a skull and crossbones, but it's two gavels instead?
There you go.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard to say. So according to Edward, he says he didn't think it was supposed to be a matching thing. He didn't think that was a big part of it.
Okay.
We don't know how likely is it that that was definitely part of it, and he just wasn't listening, or he forgot,
Or just didn't care.
But you would think for something as big as your first, not only a tattoo, but your first tattoo,
Right.
if that conversation were had, I would maybe give him the benefit of the doubt and think he would, unless he is really just very thoughtless or a terrible listener, which maybe he is, I don't know. I think you'd remember that if that came up. Like, that feels like
Right.
that would be a significant part of the convo.
And I feel like, if you are going to dive into so they're in a relationship, we don't know if they're married, dating, engaged, whatever. But you would think like, okay, we've been talking about this for a while. It's something that's been coming up. It's something that you have to spend money on because I believe tattoos aren't cheap. So it's been something that
A smaller one's probably not so expensive. I mean, I think it's maybe in the like 50 to 100 range, would be
I think,
my guess.
yeah, about, I was thinking between like 100 and 200, but yeah, about there. So like this is something that I'm assuming as a couple they have been discussing for a while. And that maybe the flowers were something significant. It doesn't say in the summary that it was, but, something that they both agreed on. And
Right.
as, like, somebody in a relationship, if it's something you've agreed on, and then you come out of the room with something completely different, I would be a little steamed.
Well, what's weird about this, I don't understand either. I mean, I guess you have to go there and then you make an appointment for later,
Oh,
but
yeah,
their
I know what
their
you're saying.
appointments weren't at the same time.
Right, like, she wasn't there while he was getting his tattoo. Like, you would think, like, if you're doing this together, you're doing this
Yeah.
together.
If it's such a big thing that's a big part of it, then yeah,
Right.
why is it just like I'll do it on Thursday afternoon? Like that seems kind of odd to me. Now they
Right.
are in their 20s, these people, so maybe they did not think about this for a long time beforehand.
They could have been
This-
at the bar right before this and went, hey, I got some tattoos.
Yeah, like maybe they're just like, hey, I never. Oh yeah, why didn't I get one before? Yeah, let's just do it. Like
Right.
it's not like they had a hang up about it that just never got around to it. So they're just
Right.
like, yeah, let's just go for it. I guess. It does seem a little bit like. Maybe he should have at least like he could have given her a courtesy text or something.
Right. Or, like, okay, so, not to get gross here, but she is going to, depends on where you put it, she is going to be the one looking at your body and be looking at this tattoo more than you look at it yourself.
Depends.
So, like,
It could be on his hand or something or his arm. Then he
right,
might
but
see
like,
it.
but like 90% of the time, it's like when I go get glasses, I take my partner with me, and I'm like, you're going to be the one looking at me. So, what glasses do you think I should pick out?
Very selfless of you.
Right. So, like, that could be something that to think about. That bring the two together, but yeah, I don't. It's weird.
Yeah, they don't mention where these tattoos are going to be. And presumably she has already gotten her tattoo, but by the time he tells her
Right.
the little reveal, the little twist, the old by M. Night Shyamalan-esque twist. So it's too late to have anything probably done about it. Now, you could also say, well, I don't know, like, how about get one on the other shoulder?
Or
Get
you
the
could
same
also
one.
like, if she's really upset about it, you can do a tattoo cover up. And you could do like a flower over this thing, but I would think, if you
Sure.
spent the money on it and the time, you wouldn't want to re-tattoo a tattoo.
What's str-
Go ahead.
what's strange to me is if the fact that he made it such a last minute decision, like,
Right.
and again, I think this just speaks to different kinds of people and people in their 20s and people who aren't me,
Right.
who are open to the idea of tattoos. I can't fathom just being like, oh yeah, this thing is gonna be in my body for the rest of my life. You know what? I changed my mind. That one instead.
Well, like I can't even like buy
I'll spend-
a pillow without doing research and like I'm not I think we're a lot alike. Whereas like I can't do anything.
I don't want that on record, but maybe
spur of the moment. Like even like when we went to when I go to a restaurant, I'll like look through and be like, okay, is this good? Is this what I want to eat? Is this food? Like I'm.
It depends what it is. It depends what it is. Certainly for something like a tattoo, I would think I would spend months thinking about that and researching that.
Well, I'm the guy who makes a spreadsheet before going on vacation. So,
Yeah. A loser.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think is the word for it.
Control freak.
Listen, there's different kinds of vacations. There are spreadsheet vacations, and then there are no spreadsheet vacations.
Oh.
I think in fact, some people I think would say a spreadsheet vacation is not a vacation. That's a trip. A vacation is
Now-
no, you relax.
Let me
A
mess you up a
trip
little bit more.
is when you have plans.
What about a holiday?
Well, that's if you're British.
I am.
And then it has to be jolly.
Yep. It's a jolly holiday.
So
I don't know. Like, would you be upset if you and your significant other were like, hey, let's get these flower tattoos, and your significant other comes and shows you the tattoo, And
Yeah, I would
it's
be upset.
not what you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would be upset, and I think the clincher here is that if their original designs hadn't been so close together,
Right.
it would be very different if it was like, oh, I got a giraffe and you got a banana.
Right.
But it's like, even if they hadn't discussed beforehand and strictly said out loud, we should make this the same,
Right.
the implication is clear. It's like they ended up being pretty similar. So it does seem like you should infer from that, I should maybe ask her if I'm going to change it, because we are supposed to be, this is our whole thing is doing this together.
Right. And it's your equal parts in this, and it's like, okay, let's have an open conversation. But it just kind of it didn't.
Sounds like we're verdict ready.
We are.
Yeah, and for me, I've got to say Edward, our defendant, I do not believe he is guilty of getting a bad tattoo necessarily. I don't think he is wrong for changing his mind about the tattoo, or for believing that they didn't need to be matching tattoos.
Right.
But I think he's guilty of miscommunication and guilty of not communicating with his partner, which is just the easy thing to do that could solve all of this. So ultimately, it's like your reasons were maybe valid. You didn't do something necessarily that was wrong, but the way you went about it was wrong. So to me, Edward is guilty.
Yeah, Edward is, in my brain, guilty of being a bad partner. You didn't communicate this. You didn't talk. Especially nowadays, he could have just sent a quick text and a picture of what he's getting done. Not
Right.
that he necessarily needs to approve what's getting done to his body, to her, but it's just
His body, his choice.
exactly. But it would be nice to have this open conversation, because in my brain, if you're not having this conversation like this, your relationship has other issues in it as well. So yeah, I would definitely say Edward is guilty of lack of communication, lack of compassion for, this tattoo idea, because, we don't know if this is something that they discussed, and this could have had some kind of meaning, and then, she comes home and she sees, oh, you have this on you. So yeah, guilty.
Yeah, if it wasn't a thing they discussed specifically that the two of them were going to do together, then there would be hardly any case here. But it's like, you just, it's how easy is it? Come on, you're Zoomers. Just get on your Snapchat and snap a chat to her real fast. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So
now, I have a decent punishment.
Oh, good. I hope you do.
It seems easy. It's the easy one. He has to get the flower tattoo.
Okay, sure.
He has to get, as well, he has his, wherever it is, his dragon thing. And on the other side, he has to get a tattoo. But next to that tattoo, next to the flower, is her face. Because that way...
You might be punishing her, though. She might...
That's true.
She might not like that.
She might be egotistical and like looking at her own face.
I do think he has to get the original tattoo, but that's not, to me, that's not a punishment, because I'm imagining he maybe won't have a problem with that. In fact, I almost feel like he should have just gotten both, or would have cleared this right up. There's definitely ways he could have done this so much better, but maybe, I don't know, maybe he's got to get a tattoo of his least favorite anime. Or maybe, what's the opposite of anime? He's got to get a minion somewhere.
He has to get a tattoo of us. He has to get our Geeks on Trial
Patreon.com/Geeks on Trial on his forehead.
On his forehead?
Yeah, something like that. Every day he has to have a different temporary tattoo of something stupid.
Or if we want to cause him just pain in general, you can just do you can get a tattoo done without the ink. So he just has to feel the pain of the tattoo and get it's a thing that people have done online. They're like, I want to know what it feels like to get a tattoo, but I don't want to get the actual tattoo. It's stupid.
Masochists?
Oh, that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, Edward, that's your sentence. Take your pick of whichever, any and all of what we said.
Oh, wait. His name's Edward. He should have to get Edward from Twilight tattooed on him. Right? Isn't that Edward from Twilight?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
That's right.
That's a thing.
That's our sentencing and our verdicts. Maybe you disagree at home. Maybe you're a tattoo haver or giver or an anime fan, or maybe there's a better Full Metal tattoo that Edward could have gotten instead. Let us know your thoughts by emailing us. Our email address is geeksontrial@gmail.com. That's also where you can go to submit your own geeky case if you are in need of a verdict for a geeky dispute in your life. We'll read it on the show, and we'll give you one. You can do that again at geeksontrial@gmail.com, or you can use the form right in our episode description.
And we would like it if you helped us help the show. Support the show. Go over to patreon.com/geeksontrial, and you can give us some money, and we'll give you some early episodes. That's how that works. And you can also give us a 5-star rating and a thumbs up on wherever you consume us.
Yeah. Keep consuming us. Remember, if you're listening in audio, we're on YouTube. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we're also available on podcast platforms. So check all that fun stuff out. Hopefully everybody saw us on Codenames Live. Mm-hmm. I suppose there's a chance. You'll have to check our socials or check the Codenames Live website if you're to Google it somewhere, that we might be going on again maybe tonight or the next day, depending on when this is released. But it depends on if we won our first show, and we're recording this in advance, so while it has already happened while you're watching it, we don't yet know if we're going to progress past our first episode.
Yeah, I just looked at the calendar. It's like, potentially we could be on right now.
But either way, the recording of at least one episode should still be on Twitch, so it's twitch.tv/Tim_RIEL, and you can find that, Codenames Live, a lot of fun. And follow us everywhere else. The link's in our description. Let's see. You can follow me on Twitter at Quentz, if it's as long as you have enough tweets Elon Musk allows you to read in a given day.
Right. If you don't scroll past all of them,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I have another podcast you can listen to called The Yerky Boys, which is an Animorphs podcast. We just finished reading through what we considered the first season of the Animorphs books. And we're moving into, we just started moving into the next set. So it's a good time to hop on board if you want to learn about the Animorphs.
How many Animorphs books are there?
There are 54 numbered books, and then there are 6 or 7 spin-off books that come in between.
I didn't realize it was that many.
Oh, yeah. Well, they pumped them out once a month for 3 years, and then they stopped.
Oh, that makes it. Yeah, it's kind of like a subscription service back then, But you can find me. I do The Snack Guy. It's youtube.com/The Snack Guy, and I forget what I'm reviewing this week, but it's a snack. You can go over there and watch me eat a snack on camera, and you can get the rest of my stuff over at ivanhan.com.
Have you ever reviewed yourself on there?
It's cute. I like that.
Because you're looking like a snack.
That's my OnlyFans.
Right. Mm-hmm. I know.
Right.
Thanks again for watching, everyone. I'm Jonathan Estes.
I'm Ivan Hahn, and this has been Geeks on Trial. Catch you next
time. By the way,
or
listening. Just or listening.
Oh.